Hello again, everybody. We're going to learn a little bit about contracts today. I'm not going to get real involved because I'm trying to lay a foundation here. And so what we're going to do, anything you do, you've got to learn the basics. I went to school for electronics, and way back in high school, one of the first things they taught us was the pi formula. P equals I times E. That's power equals I is amperage and E is volts. And then you can use algebra and change that around, and that's the basic for everything electric, everything electronic. And no matter how involved you get in a circuit board, even like the computer you're sitting in front of, everything in there has to have some kind of calculation that has to do with that. When we were in grade school, we were taught our ABCs, and then we were taught simple words, then a little bit more complex words, simple sentence construction, and you get the idea. So we got to get the basics down here, because like I said, I'm not gonna get real deep in this, but I'm going to be very specific on the salient points here. So I want this to where someone can understand it. It's just like learning your ABCs. This is where we learn to walk. So anyway, what is a contract? Well, the importance of a contract is that it is what the powers that be need in order to manipulate and trick us. And Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution has a bunch of stuff in there, but I took out the extraneous text. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. Okay? Now, there is a common law term that has to do with this too. We're not even going to go into that. What I want to look at is this obligation of contracts, because that's what they're trying to do in this system, is they're trying to get us obliged to do something or not do something based on a contract and based on fraud. Everything that's going on in this system is based on fraud. Pretty much every ill that plagues the American people has to do with contract fraud. Okay? So what we're going to do is try to get a little bit of a basic understanding so we can know how to avoid or correct these contracts, these bad contracts in the future. Well, there's 5 elements of a contract, and all these 5 have to be in place. Okay? And if there's any type of fraud in any of these, or if these don't fulfill the requirements in any way, then that's not a valid contract. 1, it must be for a legal act. Now, if a guy goes out to the local bar and hires a hitman to kill his wife, that's not a valid contract. What's he going to do? Go to court and say, Your Honor, I want to sue this guy for specific performance. Please tell him to go kill my wife. I mean, that's ludicrous. And that's kind of an exaggerated way to explain it, but you cannot contract for an illegal act. That contract is void ab initio on its face, okay? There must be a meeting of the minds with full disclosure. This is the main point that we've got them, because they never disclose. They never get us to come to an understanding to where we want to contract with them. They use presumption and assumption. And, it's in their system, if you're just amicable, if you just walk into a courtroom and you're being nice, they take that as evidence that you want to enter into a contract with them. And so they take silent judicial notice and they make up a contract, and then you get sold down the river. But this is where a lot of our remedy lies, as realizing that it's, number one, it's a violation of fiduciary duty, because they are trustees when this all starts, and they have a duty. But yet what they do is they twist things around and they make you responsible where the trustee is supposed to be responsible. When that prosecutor walks in the room, he's coming in with full liability. But then if they can keep you shut up long enough that they can build this presumption, then they've got a meeting of the minds where there's not really a meeting of the minds, but they assume there's a meeting of the minds. And so they've satisfied number 2 in their twisted, sick minds of the requirements of a valid contract. So there has to be an offer. And you'd be surprised what constitutes an offer. I mean, just about anything. When the officer pulls you over and gives you a speeding ticket, him handing you that ticket is an offer. Okay, it's an offer to contract. Him asking you for your driver's license is an offer to contract. If you comply, that is basis to build a presumption that you want to enter into a contract with him. See, because they have no legal standing, they have no leg to stand on to make their statutes apply to you. See, statutes are legislative in nature, and they're only supposed to apply to the District of Columbia, which is a 10 square mile area between Maryland and Virginia. It was originally Rome, Maryland, but a Freemason gave it up so we could have a capital there and a place to house the United States Corporation. Long story, we won't get into it. But the legislative arm can only reach into the District of Columbia, okay? And, excuse me, and what they've done is they've usurped power by putting all these federal districts in place and zip codes, just a million tricks to broaden their geographical jurisdiction. But here again, when we start knowing what's going on with the nature of a contract, we start having some defenses against some of this stuff. Okay, and there again, once they've made the offer, you can act, not act, whatever. There's so many ways to get an acceptance, but you have to have a meeting of the minds on a legal issue, an offer, and acceptance. Okay? And like I say, acceptance does not have to be verbal. We'll get there in a minute. Okay, and there has to be mutual consideration, and this is another one that'll shock you. They consider anything that's a benefit as a consideration. Okay? They consider, and rightfully so, that jail is a benefit. Under the common law, you know, some things like burglary, that's a death sentence the first time out. So if you get a burglary charge and you're put in jail instead of being put to death, that's a definite benefit. See? But that's kind of the way their system works. They have to make all these benefits. Using Federal Reserve notes is a benefit, and it implies your acceptance of a consideration so that you're entering into a contract. It's all about contract. Contract makes the law, and everything is contract. When you tell your child, I'll let you stay up till 8 o'clock tonight if you'll finish your green beans, that's a contract. Pretty much all interpersonal relationships are contracts. It's just they're so subtle that we don't look at them as such. But we need to start changing the way we look at all of these contracts. Okay, now there's some types of contracts. This is the status of the contracts. They can either be valid, void, or voidable. A valid contract is everything is upfront, everybody has got full disclosure, an offer is made, an acceptance is made, and the consideration is laid out where there's no ambiguity. Any ambiguity in any area of a contract makes it voidable. Not necessarily void, but voidable. You'll have to take a positive, proactive stance to void that contract. But it's doable. It's very doable. And then, of course, there are the contracts for hiring the hitman to kill your wife that are just void on their face. You can't do it. Okay, now contracts can be either express or implied. Express being you say it, you know, with no ambiguity, or you put it in writing. Or, like I said earlier, when you walk into that courtroom and all rise, you know, for the judge, you rise, you're obeying, that leads to the presumption that you want to contract with the court. Right off the bat. Or when you walk in that courtroom and the bailiff walks over with his little piece of paper and checks you off to make sure you're there. That just being amicable, just being nice, just being polite, gives them enough wiggle room that they can create the presumption that you want to enter into a contract, that you want to become a surety for a dead entity, a corporation, a corpse. And that's what this whole birth certificate thing is about. And we're going to be getting more and more into that. I've gotten into it a little bit in past videos. But like I say, I'm trying to keep this very, very simple and kind of short. So we're just going to get through this. But keep in mind, your actions or your lack of action or lack of saying anything can also be taken as a contract, as an acceptance of a contract. And one of the things that judges are very good at doing is they're very good at getting up there on the bench and screaming at you. But if you listen to the words are going to look really nice on paper. It's not going to reflect their emotion. It's not going to inflect the intimidation that they do. When you just stand there and comply and say nothing, quiet as a church mouse, you've just accepted his offer to contract. The appellate court can only review what is in the court record. So they're not going to retry the case. When they look at it and say, oh, the judge said he didn't say anything that was out of pocket here, they can't see that you were quaking in your boots because of the way he was talking to you, you know? So, and that's the implied contract. An implied contract is so prevalent in this world today, and it can be in a lot of different things, okay? So just keep in mind that your actions or inactions, either one. And when the inactions, well, let's see, I guess I just got out of order a little bit. Acceptance can be expressed or implied by action or a lack of action. Now, acceptance by a lack of action, the latter is called acquiescence, the definition of which conduct recognizing the existence of a transaction and intended to permit the transaction to be carried into effect. A tacit agreement. Consent inferred from silence. See, and that's what we were just talking about. When he's got you quaking in your boots in there and the prosecutors came and told you beforehand, oh, we're going to ask for 20 years if you don't do this, and you're already nervous, and then the judge gets a little bit aggressive with you, you stand there and say nothing, you agree to go to jail. And was it Rehnquist? One of the justices, I should have pulled it up, said that 90% of everybody in prison today is there by consent. But check it out. You got enough here, you can start researching on your own. So that's about it for this one. Like I said, it's going to be short, sweet, and to the point. But please like, subscribe, and share. I'm building a foundation to present a non-UCC status correction anyone can do. I've been collaborating a bit with Brandon, the Big Sib, of the Big Sib YouTube channel, and I've sent him a rough draft of most of it. And when I get this thing all done, you know, I plan on putting it out there. But you guys got to have some basic foundation to build this on. You know, if you're completely ignorant, you're not going to be able to carry it out. And I'm trying to simplify it to where, you know, anybody that chooses to do this can do their own research, do their own due diligence. Because, see, I can't tell you to do this. I'm not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice. Okay? And I'm not asking anybody or telling anybody to do this. This is what I'm doing for me. Okay? That being said, please like, subscribe, and share so that, you know, everybody can kind of go along with us at the same pace here. And we have a little study going, and we'll get through some of these points, and we'll see what we can come up with. If we can get a basic skill set when it comes to the law that doesn't require the countless hours of reading case law and statutes and what have you, just to understand, you know, that you can correct your status. The only need is to know who you are, and that's what I keep harping on. Know who you are. I know who I am. Do you know who you are? That video is a little bit long, and I've put it in several videos, the same concept, and I'm going to keep harping on that. It's very, very important that we realize that we are living men and women. We are not people. We are not fictions. We are not citizens of a corporation. Well, we can be if we decided to contract to do that. And the thing is, somebody contracted for us. Mom, in her ignorance, was the victim of fraud when she filled out that birth certificate and informed on you. Then you contracted to be a citizen of the United States with all of the obligations imposed by the 14th Amendment, including being a surety for the debt of these SOBs that are out there printing $6.2 trillion worth of money that's going to mostly go to their friends. So I did it on, I think it was the $4 trillion. And I did division of 300 million into 4 trillion. And we should all get 66.666 checks with that. That's the first numbers I heard. And I just grabbed the calculator and did it. So if you're getting only one check out of this, which you have to pay back, by the way. So what's going on there? 65.666 times that amount is going somewhere else, but not to you. Oh, but you get to pay for it. Do you see how important it is to know who you are? If you know who you are, you can't escape this beast system. And I believe that that's not a request. I believe it's an imperative. I believe we have to escape the beast system to the best of our ability. Now, I know some people are in a position where it's just like impossible. The people who are retired on the fixed income, this, that, and the other, they make it so hard to do it. But that's really our only cure, our only remedy is to escape the beast system. Realize who we are and be willing to make the hard decisions so that we can ultimately make it into the kingdom of Yahuwah Elohim. So with that, everybody, I'm going to say until next time, and Yahuwah bless you all. Thanks.